Welcome, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Round Table. I'm your host, Josh Turner, and with me, as always, is Sal Capone.
That's it. I've graduated from, Salesian. Yeah. But hey, it's all good. I'm just, going, having a good old time with it. But I do like that one, Sal Capone.
Sal Capone? Somebody sent me that. I think it was a guy named James Asher. I think that's his name. He sent me that one, and he was like, hey, man, you should call him Sal Capone. And then he threw a couple others out. I think it was him. If it wasn't him, whoever it was.
I like seeing all that in the comments, too.
Yeah, it was the comments section. We got a lot of good comment people.
Yeah, we do. We got a great bunch of people out there throw out good comments. And like as always find it funny, You got the ones that say, hey, get rid of Sal. And you got the other ones that say, hey, Wolf, be quiet. Let Sal talk. And, hey, this wouldn't be a show without having all those on there,
Well, because we don't rehearse. We just go in and we start talking.
That's it.
But everybody thinks that we're, like talking over everybody. I don't care.
We're having fun. It's a good time.
It's what we do. We're just having a good time, and you guys can listen in to us talk about stuff.
Exactly, man. So before we get started, let's just go ahead and plug the email and all the good stuff.
Yeah, it's DasWolfman88 at gmail.com, DasWolfman88 at gmail.com, and...
Or Wolf and Sal at gmail.com.
Wolf and Sal at gmail.com.
You got two to choose from. Send us your story. I'm sorry we're slow. We've got a lot of good stories, and we're trying to play catch up, and we are working as hard as we can.
Backlogged. I mean, we are bad. My Messenger, too. Go ahead and just start sending them on Messenger, too. If you got me on Facebook, just send them to Messenger, because... that's what everybody's doing anyways. We got a bunch of people on email too, but if you got something to talk about on Messenger, just send me a message and I can call you.
Oh yeah, and your stories, if you don't want to come on, that's cool too.
And I've talked to a lot of really cool people too.
I'll tell you, and we're working, like I said, we're working to get a hotline that we can, business line that we can call you guys and everything else. I'm kind of a private person. I don't like giving out my phone number to everybody in the world,
Me, I don't care. If you call me and I don't like you, I'll just auto-reject you. Very simple. Very simple. I just
wow. All right. But anyways, what else have you been going on? What's been going on? What's new with you?
Not much. I had a birthday party recently that you didn't come to.
Oh no, just kind of this hospital thing.
Yeah, you're like, I was in the hospital. Oh god, That's like last year when you were putting up the Christmas lights and you fell, and all I heard was, I can't feel my legs. I can't feel my legs. Come on, dude, suck it up.
All I heard from you was, but did you die?
Did you die? Yeah. That is the thing, dude. You didn't die.
That's true.
And your wife was like, get back out there and put those lights up. We don't have time for this rolling around the ground. You're like one of those soccer players, dude.
Yeah.
Give me a
had
break.
the bone sticking out of the leg, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Push it back in and suck it up.
That's it.
You're a soldier. Do what you got to do.
That's it.
Christmas lights are important. You got to get them up.
But you know what the good thing is, too, though? I noticed today before we got started, I was sniffing, like the puppies. I was just sniffing.
You're sniffing
around.
Puppies?
No, like puppies. They sniff everything, right? I was just sitting here sniffing everything, and I noticed you had there was a new...
Oh, yes, I have a cologne for it. Yava Saint Laurent. It's pretty good stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I came out of the shower, and I forgot it was just you coming over. And I had slathered myself up, and I was like thinking I was getting ready to leave or something. I don't know. I just kind of like my mind. And then my wife's like, wow, you smell so good. And I was like, yeah, I know. Yeah, it's my new scent. I took a shower. Folks, this is your cleanliness tip for the day. Take a hot shower and put on some Yava Saint Laurent, and you'll smell good like me. People ask me all the time, they're like, are you the best smelling man in the world, Wolf? And I'm like, I don't know. Probably. But I don't like to say it because I'm so humble,
I got to give me one of those.
You got to get you some of that.
Give me whatever that cologne is.
It's hard being so humble, though. I don't like to talk about my things that I'm good at, I just don't like to sit there and brag.
Oh yeah.
Smelling good and, anyways, folks, we're just playing. Everybody's called me out on that. You talk about how tough you are. Well, that's mostly what I've done in my life is just be that way. And I'm sorry that's, I'm trying to demilitarize. Sal understands how hard that can be.
Oh yeah. There's just some things that's so hard to let go of.
I want to thank everybody for all the birthday wishes. A lot of you guys sent me birthday wishes. A few of you people actually sent me gifts that were really nice. I'm lying. I didn't get any gifts. Actually, I only got a friend of mine gave me a soap on a rope. I think he's telling me that, you know.
He's trying to give you something.
Yeah, that was pretty much the only gift I got. But my brother threw me a birthday party and a surprise party, actually. And they were like, hey, let's go to the bar. And I'm like, not really. I'm tired. And they're like, come on, let's go to the bar. And I'm like, I don't really want to go. And they're like, well, you should go. And I'm going like, okay, something weird's going on. So then I get there and everybody's there, with the exception of like you and Chief, my two carnales who were not there. Chief had some excuse like he's working out of town or some baloney. And then you're like, oh, I just got out of the hospital or whatever. So I was like, whatever. I mean, you got to get your priorities straight, dude. That's all I know.
Well, I know what got me in the hospital. I know what got me in there. I had a pneumonia.
You had to go to a water park that you didn't want to go to.
Yeah, I got stressed out. And I was already infected with some kind of bacteria, and all that culminated and gave me a pneumonia, and I was stuck in the hospital for 3 days.
Dude, being in the hospital sucks. I remember when you came to see me when I was in the hospital.
Yeah. And
it was just, I wanted to get out so bad, but I couldn't because there's this blood pressure just kept going nuts.
You know, I was dealing with 103 temperature spiking up and down.
Weird dreams.
Oh, no. Not weird dreams. Hallucinations.
Yeah.
It was bad.
But, you know, sometimes though, like when I had when I had that food poisoning a few months back, I thought you had come into my room. And I was like, honey, where's Armando? Did he come in? She's like, what? I was like, I thought Armando had come into the room. And like you were dressed up like in fatigues and you had your rucksack. And I was like, why is he sitting in my room with that bag? And she was like, what? Armando's not in here. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. And then my fever subsided. I felt better knowing that you weren't there. Just kidding with you, man. I'm just messing with you. But no, I did dream. It was weird. So we got some stuff on the docket today.
All right. You know, there's so much to talk about, you know, because paranormal is just so wide, you know, and far-reaching.
And vast.
So what is it we're going to, you know, because I know you've been wanting to.
Well, we got something. I'll tell you what.
Right.
We got the hag, ghost pets, angels, demons, haunted objects, ghost vehicles, witches, missing time, alien abductions, immortal people, werewolves. None of that we're going to talk about today.
A lot of those are going to come up in future episodes.
We're going to talk about zombies.
Yeah. Now that one I've been wanting to, sit down and talk about because zombies, when you look at it historically, all that came about and mainly in Haiti. It has its origins in Africa, West Africa, because in West Africa, prior to the slave trade and all this other stuff to the Americas, they had earth-based religions. And so a lot of the earth-based religions were kidnapped, with the people. So and a lot of the black slaves that were traded and of course dropped off in the West Indies and all those islands, primarily Haiti. Well, a lot of that stuff transformed and around the 17 to 1800s is when the whole idea of zombies really kicked off, and mainly in Haiti, of course, because the whole voodoo religion, and all this other stuff, they had all that going on. A lot of it, according to all the stuff that I read, had to do with the thing with zombie being an old Congo word around the Congo area, basically means soul. The word zombie, and everything went from there. It was folklorish, and of course, when it got to Haiti and they were enslaved and conditions were bad, well, the whole thing with zombie in Africa, in popularized or glamorized terminology of about 80 years ago, they call them witch doctors, but the actual word they call them is bokor. And bokors within the voodoo religion, there's some that work for good, there's some that work for bad. And a bad one will try to capture your soul. And in essence, when your soul is captured in that religion, that's how you get a zombie. And you're nothing more than a slave. And that's what it's been basically put across up until recently. You remember that old movie, Serpent in the Rainbow?
Yeah, I do. It sucked.
It was. I'm
just kidding. I vaguely remember it. Yeah.
Well, it had a lot to do with, people getting zombified by these quote unquote witch doctors, aka or proper terminology, bokors, capturing the souls. And then a lot of that had a lot of good information pointing back to the origins of what a zombie is. And then, of course, now you look at what television and pop culture's done to zombies. It's the only thing I guess you could say the two things have in common is that the zombies are not in control of themselves. They're not their own acting agents. And of course, the modern day zombie movies and all that stuff, because it started really with George Romero's Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, and it's gotten popularized with The Walking Dead.
Yeah, that's made it explode.
And see, what's crazy though is like I got some stories. Yeah. I got some stories about, and you can decide, you people at home can decide if you believe these are zombies or what, because I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
But I got some stories, and I've had these for a while, some of them, and then I got one recently, but I've had my own experience with zombies. I'm not gonna. They weren't George Romero's zombies.
Yeah,
they weren't The Walking Dead. No,
eating brains.
They were created by drugs. And I have my nephew Anthony, who's usually doing the sound with us. He's going to talk a little bit about that too, because he knows about that. So when we get involved with that, we're going to talk about, because it happened to me, Zane, Scorpion, Anthony, because we all worked in an area back when they were. Yeah, and so we'll get into that later on. But do you want me to get into these stories, or do you want to? Are you done talking about the history?
Yeah, well, as far as the history, like I said, the history and where it came from compared to what how zombies are portrayed today in pop culture, they're two totally different things. Folks should really get in there and read up on where the zombie, the whole thing with the zombie originated, and how it pertains to mainly Haitian culture.
Yeah, I know a story of a guy that was supposedly, there's a drug that they can give you, and it stops your bodily functions.
Yeah, and that's a lot of that's covered in The Serpent and the Rainbow.
Yeah,
where it was from
there was from a story. Yeah, there's a story that I had read. I can't remember the source. Might have been Fate magazine or something like that. I read this story though, but this guy had thought he was dead. And then when he came back, a witch doctor who had just basically poisoned him, and had went to the grave and got him out, because they didn't bury their people 6 foot deep like we do,
right?
And just put him in a wooden coffin 2 feet in the ground. So he dug him out and woke him up. So when he woke up, he told him, "I'm in charge of you. Your soul belongs to me, and you have to work for me, and then you'll get your soul back." So this guy was like, he was ignorant,
and he was convinced.
So he believed it. So his sister, like 5 years later, saw him working in a sugarcane field.
Yeah.
And then she was like, they had to convince him that his soul was intact. He was not a zombie.
Correct.
And apparently that was common. That stuff would happen. And I was reading about it. And this happened back in like, the 1940s.
Yeah.
But it was crazy, So anyways, we're going to get into some other stories, some other zombies. And people, like I said, can decide if you think these are zombies. Okay, I know I got a couple nephews that could probably pass as zombies half the time. They're just playing video games with their mouth open, Tony, Zane. Anyways, yeah, you're like, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" Yeah, okay. All right.
I'm about to hit the next level.
I'm gonna go.
All right, so brother, hey, lay it on us, man. Let's hear them.
Okay, well, I guess I'll start with a pretty crazy one. I had a guy he's a friend of ours from the club, and I've not talked to him about getting his name or anything. I've been so busy. I was going to do that, but it's not really important. But anyways, he was leaving Rainy Street. Rainy Street is an area, I know D, my brother's over here. You used to work off of Rainy Street, right? Yeah. I don't remember the name of the bar you worked at, but anyway, Rainy Street. Him and his girlfriend were leaving a bar over there, and they were walking down an alley, going to cut through an alley to go to their vehicle. And Rainy Street, folks, is another area of downtown. You have the Warehouse District, you have 6th Street, you have what they call Dirty 6th, and you have West 6th, you have 7th Street, then you have 5th Street, then you have the Warehouse District, you have Congress, and you have Rainy Street. So you have all these different areas. Then you had Red River. Those are I think that's pretty much the main areas of downtown. Mm-hmm. They're categorized by that. So if you're going to an area, people ask you where you're going. Well, you say, well, I'm going to, Red River. There's an area called Red River. Then there's an area called West 6th, which is a little more upscale. And then there's the Dirty 6th, which is on the east. And then you got the main 6th, which is where I worked. And then you have Rainy Street. And then you have the Warehouse District, which was the older upscale, and then you had Congress. So you have all these different areas. Well, Rainy Street was a fairly new area at that time, and it was just kind of just popped up. And so there were a lot of little residential areas, and there were alleys and stuff. So you had residential areas right there around where those bars were, because I believe most of those houses had been converted. If I'm not mistaken, weren't they all houses, Diablo? They were, yeah. And they just turned them into like bars. Because I remember the bar you worked at was like a big house.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you just figured it out. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining the party, buddy.
I don't hang out downtown very much. But anyways, I know exactly what you're talking about now.
Yeah, it's good for your health to go out and drink every night and hang out, dude. You should get started with that.
Yeah, and only with straight whiskey, right?
Hey, man, I don't have much gray hair. I found a couple in my head, and I was telling my wife, you know what? All the drinking and partying and stuff I did, it's paid off.
There you go.
No, seriously. But no, Rainy Street, there was a lot of residential areas, and the reason that's important is because there's a lot of little places for people to hide and in the alleys, and there was a couple muggings and some things that went on down there. So the police presence got a little more beefed up, because for a while there, it was just kind of like a cool place. People, there wasn't really a heavy police presence. There wasn't nothing going on. But Austin has a big homeless population, a very big homeless population. And growing. And so there were some things that went on. People got attacked, robbed, whatever. Well, my friend, he swears that him and his fiance at the time, now they're married, that they were walking down one of these alleys and they saw a person hunched over. At first they thought it was like a lump of blankets, but as they walked closer, they saw that it was a man hunched over another man, and they could see the one that was laying flat on his back and had the guy on top of him, like hunched over him. His legs were shaking, and they were like, whoa, what the heck is going on, you know? And the guy was making a grunting noise, the guy that was on top of the guy. And so as they got closer, they looked, and I guess one of them kind of kicked a rock or something, and the guy that was on top heard him, and he turned around and looked at him. They said he was a black man, but it was like unnatural. Like he didn't look like a normal African American man. He was like black, but it was weird. They said that he had like the hair, you know, like an African American, but his features, they said he was really weird looking. Like, and the way they described it was like when he turned around, his eyes were completely red. Okay. Whoa. And he had these weird little small jaggedy looking teeth, and that he was apparently chewing on this other guy. Yeah. And that's a story that we were told, me and several of us were told by this friend of ours. And so his girlfriend began to panic and run the opposite way from the car. And so he grabbed her, and he turned her around, and they ran down the alley, you know. It's pretty crazy. And so he grabbed her and said, no, let's go this way. And the guy got up, and according to, I'm not going to say her name, sorry. According to her and him, that the dude started to crawl toward them, like on all fours, and he was moving fast. That's and so weird. They ran, and then they got to the car, and then they fumbled for the phone, and they called the police, called it in, and they never did find out what happened or what. Yeah, that's a crazy story. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that was, but it's very weird. You know how I was talking about pulling threads? The reason I told that story is because that would have just been filed away in the weird, I don't know what it is story.
Yeah.
You could say vampire. I don't know what that is. Zombie. They said that he was making like a hissing, gurgling noise or growling noise. Wow. And that the guy that was laying there appeared to be homeless looking man or whatever, had his throat was gone, you know? So I don't know what that is. I don't know what that was, but there was a guy that used to work with us years ago at the club, and he told me a really weird story, very similar to that. So anyways, this guy, he told us a story that when he was a little kid, they lived out on a farm in, I want to say Minnesota, but I'm not for sure if that's correct. Anyways, he was from the north, and I didn't talk to him a whole lot, but I just remember this guy. He was he worked our door for a little bit with Squid, and I know that he told us a crazy story that one time when he was a little kid, that he had seen, like out in the field, there was like a pasture or field or whatever. He saw a man staggering around out in the field. And like he had binoculars, you know, he's a little kid or whatever. Right. And he looked out the binoculars, and that the man had blood around his mouth, and he had these weird looking teeth, and his eyes were red.
That's crazy.
And he ran to go tell his dad, hey, there's some guy stumbling around in the field. And his dad came, and the guy was gone.
Wow. That's
And he said he'll
nuts.
always remember that. And it looked like he'd been chewing on something. So that was weird. I don't know what that is. I don't know if this was, I mean, could it be Skinwalker? But, you know, they said that this guy, my friends and my friend and his wife, they said that the guy looked like a normal guy, other than his eyes were, you know, and then he had the weird looking teeth and the blood all over his face, obviously chewing on somebody. And that's not, you know. Now, I would think that because that might tie into what me and Anthony are going to talk about later, because it was not, but it wasn't around that same time. So I don't know. And the teeth and the red eyes, that's weird. You know, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, what do you think?
You know, I'm thinking the teeth, the weird teeth, like you said, jaggedy, weird, and then, of course, red eyes. Definitely acting like a zombie, chewing on people. And this is in the classic sense of how people understand zombies today, not in the historical classic sense, but just how people understand them right now. Walking Dead, all those type shows. In that sense, it is, you know, chewing on somebody, but the red eyes and the teeth, I'm thinking shapeshifter maybe?
Yeah, I don't know what.
You know, because what else would feed on human flesh like that?
I mean,
you know?
if you take certain substances,
yeah, that too. Now, I
you
was
might
thinking
get really
drugs.
red eyes and you might get really hungry.
That's true.
You know?
Well, now there was that guy in Florida with the bath salts. Remember that?
Yeah.
But,
Well, that's what I was thinking.
but
too,
that guy,
you know?
but that guy looked normal though.
Yeah,
When
that
they
guy
took
looked
the picture of him, he looked
And
normal.
I
He just-
asked my friend too. I was like, "Are you this?" I mean, he was very adamant that that's what he saw.
wow.
Like he said, "No, dude, it was not a normal human being." And you know, what do you? I mean, who knows?
Shapeshifter,
Dude?
just like when you had that episode with that guy with that tall, lanky guy said was pretty strong. He was reptilian, the eyes changing. You know,
Well,
we talked about
I
in the
didn't
previous
actually see
episode.
the eyes change, but I mean,
Right.
like, yeah, everybody did.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
But they weren't red.
No, not red. But
I
the
mean-
fact it's you know shapeshifting is what I'm getting.
Yeah,
at.
okay.
You know that kind of thing is just.
It sounds kind of like 30 Days of Night or something. I don't
Yeah,
know. Did
yeah.
they have red eyes in that movie? I don't know.
I think they did. I saw the first movie was good. The second one, not so much.
I don't remember the second one.
I don't
I remember
either.
the first one though. But
Yeah,
anyway, that was a vampire movie, wasn't
yeah,
it?
it was a
Something like
vampire movie.
vampires? Okay.
But it's really strange though, just chewing on people and then of course.
Yeah, it was- so I got another thing for you.
Yeah,
I got another thing for you. So that was a pretty crazy story, but there was another one. There's two more really weird ones. Some friends of mine told me another crazy story. A guy and his wife, he was a truck driver, and they were in a swampy area in Florida. And they had a blowout, whatever. So they pulled over, and this is what's crazy. Like you hear these truckers, you know, it'd be horrible to I hear all these stories about truckers pulling over, and then something weird happens in the middle of nowhere, or to go to sleep. They'll pull over to go to sleep, you know. So, anyways, they had a vehicular trouble, and there was a swamp right there next to where they were at, and so they pulled over, and they encountered something really weird. Now, he got out to check, you know, to see because it was, a blowout, whatever. And so he got out and was messing around, and she starts screaming, you know, and from the cab. Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
so he's like, what, you know, and then she won't even get out of the vehicle, and she's pointing toward the swamp. Well, he looks and he couldn't tell whether it was a male or a female,
Right.
but he heard the sloshing of shallow water, and something was walking toward the truck. Now, he said that he shined his flashlight on it, and it wasn't translucent or anything like that. But he said that it had really pale skin, and it had like a weird, like it was rotting on one side of its face. And like he said, he couldn't really tell whether it was male or female because it was kind of at a distance. But then he said it started moving faster and coming toward him. And he said he just froze. He just stood there frozen looking at it. And he had a pistol. He had it with him, and he said that as it got to the land, you know,
Right.
out of the swamp,
Mhm.
and began to walk up the hill toward where he was at, he pointed the gun at it and told it to back off, and it didn't. It just kept moving, and it came faster. It came closer to him, and he shot. And he said that when he did, it just like evaporated.
Oh, that's crazy.
So I don't know what that is either. You know, I've talking to that stuff, told you, Anthony, that story, you know, my wife, I was like, what do y'all think of that?
That's crazy.
I don't know what that is. You know, you could speculate all day, but he said that it looked like a zombie, like literally, it was like this hollowed out eyes. As it got closer, he could see. He said he thought it was a woman, but he couldn't tell for sure.
Well, you know, here's an interesting thought I've had, because we mentioned shapeshifters, just a little bit ago. And when you think about pop culture and what is popular as far as scary, these shapeshifters, if they're tuned into what pop culture people's fears are, and these shapeshifters potentially could manifest into the fear, i.e., like the Slender Man. People talk about seeing the Slender Man.
Is a...
it was an internet phenomenon that was, as the kids say these days, a creepypasta.
It's creepypasta. Somebody made it up, right?
Yeah.
But then people started seeing it.
Right. And
kind of like The Rake.
Yeah, kind of. Well, the Rake, I agree. That's another one that for many people, it has always been a skinwalker or a Wendigo. But now they call it a rake, and then it's taken on this form. But when you think about what shapeshifters are able to do, is I don't think it's too much of a stretch to think that people's fears and the scary creatures that they dream up today. Well, why wouldn't a shapeshifter be able to shapeshift into their scary, their scary monster that they have in their mind? So. Except for Kukui, because
that's a catch-all.
Yeah, it's a catch-all.
What's crazy, though, is like his wife saw the same thing he did, but she was not outside of the cab. She was smart and stayed inside.
Yeah. But I think the scariest, not the scariest, but just the most mind-blowing aspect of this whole story is when he fired, it just poof.
Yeah, it just evaporated.
Yeah.
And he did say something else, which was kind of weird. I asked him about this, point blank. Sometimes when paranormal things happen, you see like a glow or anything. And I asked him if there was an aura or a glow, everything about it, because I always ask people. Mm-hmm. And he said that he remembers seeing sort of a green mist when it evaporated. So I don't know what that is. I have no idea.
You didn't say anything about smells?
I know this guy personally. He's not like like one of my best friends, but he's a friend of mine's, like cousin. So he's related to a good friend of mine, and I talked to him face to face. We were kind of having a little get together one night at my friend's house, and he was there, and we were all in the backyard. And he told me that story. He's like, "Hey, this guy collects stories," so he told me. But what's crazy though, he swears that happened. I didn't actually talk to his wife; they are not together anymore. But I did talk to him, and he told me, it was crazy. I mean, and he said that he always carried a gun, and so he shot at it, and he wasn't, one to shoot like, just
indiscriminately.
Yeah, and so once it got closer, and he thought, oh my gosh, and then he started to kind of, walk away, to move backwards. I guess the way he was showing me was physically moving backwards, and he shot, and then it just evaporated.
Wow, that's nuts, man.
So I don't know what to make of that, but here's another thing. Loki. Yeah. Okay, I just talked to him yesterday.
God of mischief.
Yeah. Well, no, our friend, but he told me a story. This is crazy. I just got this yesterday when we were talking. I told him about the show, whatever, and he told me that he set up a game cam.
Oh, that's interesting.
Out there near Seguin.
Okay.
And he said that it's a good 15 miles out in the middle of nowhere, and I said, anything weird come up on it? And he goes, well, I was going to tell you. He goes, a naked guy just walked in front of it. And he's just like, you just see him walking. He says his eyes look really weird. So I'm going to try and get that and see if I can look at it, and see what is it talking about with the eyes.
Definitely.
And he said that he just like walked, in front of the game cam. And he says, it's kind of hard with those cameras. You can't always tell the eyes because the eyes look weird anyway. But he goes, but they just looked really bizarre. And the dude kind of looked at the camera and then just kept walking.
He was buck naked.
Yeah. And I didn't understand, why, what would a guy be doing walking around 15 miles out in the middle of nowhere? It's on a deer lease.
Buck naked. Yeah. That's strange. That's strange. I mean, you had to find out who's on the lease and if you got anybody making stupid bets, you ain't got a hair on your tail.
Well, why would you walk around 15 miles in the middle of nowhere by yourself? It doesn't make any sense.
On top of that.
Well, that area, like Loke said that he's been out there, all over that he didn't see anybody.
Right.
There's nobody out there. So who is that? Now here's what this ties into. I think back it was 2012, I believe. Anthony and me and a couple of the other guys were working at a place called At Home. They were opening it, It's a chain, like a home furnishings chain.
Right.
And we had a contract with them, and we opened a few of them with them. And so they were opening one over there in your neck of the woods over there in Cedar Park.
Mm-hmm.
And so that one, we were working like 24-hour coverage because we had some guy that had made a threat, because he quit. So then we ended up having 5 security guards 24 hours a day for like 2 weeks. So it was just balls to the wall working. And so I had to go out there and work. And so I was there one night and I said, I'm going to go grab some food. So Scorp was working in Georgetown. So I wanted to go, and I was going to drop him something off too, because he was doing another account, which was a 24-hour account. Mm-hmm. And so he was having to work a 24-hour shift. So I had to drive out there to the edge of Georgetown to bring him something to eat. Well, I don't know what road that is, but it's not far from that church. The
Werewolf Church.
Yeah. If you take another road out there, it's going that way. So I'll get, it's kind of creepy. I'm out there by myself, and I'm driving, and it's I don't know what they maybe 18 miles or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm driving down that highway, and it's pretty desolate. It's just a 2-lane road, and there's nobody out there. Now, folks, this is crazy. It was 2:30 in the morning. Okay. And I told the guards in Cedar Park, I said, I'll be back. I'm going to go take this food to Scorp out there at Colson. So I'm driving down that highway. And if you take that road between Leander and Georgetown, there's nothing. No. And there's not even houses a lot. And there's like whoever, they own a lot of land out there. It's pasture. Mm-hmm. It's just barbed wire fences on both sides, very rural. And like I said, there ain't no houses.
Yeah, the development is...
It's sparse, yeah.
Sparse,
it's getting there now toward the Georgetown side, but when you turn off by Leander to go, there's like a tractor store, and then it's like the last signs of civilization until you get to
the Georgetown
side. Yeah, so you're getting in there. So I'm driving down the highway, and I'm like messing with the radio, the XM, whatever, just trying to, and I look up, and it wasn't like right out in front of me. It wasn't that dramatic, but I see this guy. Okay, and like run like in the distance, kind of like maybe I don't know how many yards, because I was closing in pretty quick. I was driving pretty fast, and I see this guy and he was a white male, and he was nude, and he ran across the road. And Anthony, you remember I told you that when I came back, I said, dude, I saw a freaking weird. It was weird. And so, there was no houses around there. It's just ranch land. That's all it is, just ranch land.
Any bodies of water around there?
Not that I know of, unless they're tanks, somebody has a pond tank, whatever. And so this guy he just ran across the road, and he was probably about 6 foot tall, slightly built from what I could tell. I mean, he didn't look like he's super muscular or anything.
Right.
From what I saw, he had like dark hair. He didn't turn his head to the side, but he was just a man, and he was obviously naked. And he ran across the road, and he jumped over the barbed wire fence. Like, he jumped it. And like when I was crossing his trail, whatever, I saw him. He had jumped over the barbed wire fence and was running into the pasture. It was a man. And I just was like, what the heck is that? What was that? Like, what is this guy doing running around naked in the middle of the night at 2:30 in the morning, in a pasture?
That's really interesting.
In the dark with no... I mean, it's just weird. Like, that is so weird. I don't know it just makes me, I don't know. Anyway, I remember it was October 2012. I remember that.
Especially that time of year, because you can't tell.
And it was getting chilly.
Yeah.
Like it was late October, like maybe a week before Halloween.
Yeah.
And I just remember it was like a little bit chilly, I had the windows down, because I like the cold, crisp air, but I rolled the window up after that, because I
don't blame you.
Don't know what this guy was up to or what kind of stuff he was on, and I just kept going. And then
it brings a lot of questions to mind, because we mentioned shapeshift earlier, and of course this is all about zombies, and of course the way zombies are now portrayed in pop culture and everything else, shapeshifters could easily manifest into zombies. The other thing I was thinking about is I remembered that story you said in a previous episode about the guy that you knew that was working the docks, and they saw that one individual that looked like a creature come out, and then he started shimmering, and all the hair came off.
And the hair fell off of him.
Yeah, and then all you had was a naked guy, and he walked up into the wood line. Mm-hmm. So again, could it potentially be something like that? Who knows? I mean,
I just kept going, and I stepped on it a little faster.
Well, even if he was just a totally normal guy, I wouldn't have stopped. You're buck naked out in the middle of the boonies.
What am I going to do, sir? Can I offer you assistance? Would you like some clothes? Because I don't have any. What would you do? I mean, like, what am I going to do? Am I going to talk to them? I'm not the Salvation Army. I don't,
that would just blow my mind because you're out in the boonies, you're buck naked. Okay, those two things just don't fit.
Well, look what I just was told yesterday about the game cam, and I didn't tell that story to Luke for him to tell me that.
Right.
So it's really weird. I don't know what that is.
It sounds like one of those instances you just talked about. Like, what is it? What is it? I mean, because again, where Loki had that game cam. Loki has the game cam out in the boonies.
I guess I could have offered him a sock.
Yeah.
I could be like, sir, would you, who was it that did the sock? Was that Red Hot Chili Peppers? Or?
I think it was Red Hot Chili Peppers. Or was it Steve-O from Jackass?
I don't know about that guy, but I'm just talking about I don't know what to do. I just, there's nothing you can do. I thought about it when I got to post with Scorp. I said, hey, I told him, and he goes, dude, there's a lot of weird stuff out here. But he was telling me about weird noises he was hearing because that place was surrounded by woods. And he was telling me about it. And we'd seen so many weird things on posts, So I was just like, I don't know what that was. I mean, it was just, and I said, should we call the police and tell them there's a guy running? But I guess that would be the sheriff's department. So
out there, yeah.
And Scorp was like, well, I mean, he's, I guess he could be trespassing, but what are they going to do? Go out into the...
Are they going to try to catch him or something? I think the police would have some reservation. We're going to go catch this naked guy
running around in the field. Let's see if we can contact the rancher who owns all this land.
Oh man, that's just, it's nuts. Okay, so just to close this off.
Close this off?
Yeah.
He needed to close it off.
Yeah. You liked that pun, didn't you?
Speaking of nuts.
Anyways. Folks, don't pick up strange naked men out in the boonies somewhere. I'll leave you with that.
Okay. I didn't even contemplate picking him up. I just saw him and was like, see you later.
Some people may say, I'll stop and pick him up. Hey, remember what Simon said about saws a portal? Him. Remember what time Simon said about a portal?
Walking through a portal.
He'll go right through it, following that Bigfoot in a portal.
Yeah, but he's not going to follow a naked man through a portal.
No. Some people may try to stop and help him. Who knows? But anyways, with that being said, what else you got for us, brother?
Well, this is a really creepy story. This is a truck driver, too, a big truck driver. He sent me this story recently. And he was driving through, now I had to go back and look for the state. And I found it was an area near Flagstaff in Arizona.
Wow.
And there's a lot of woods around there. A lot of people think that Arizona is just one big desert, just like they do with Texas. But the area around the Grand Canyon and Flagstaff is really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very mountainous. And I guess this guy had pulled over to go to sleep.
Right.
And he was like, there's some woods. There are a lot of woods.
Yeah, there's a lot of wood. It's very wooded up in that area.
Yeah, very piney, I think. Yeah. And so he had pulled over onto one of these rest stops or whatever, rest areas or whatever, and he had pulled over to go to sleep. And he was the only one there. And so he said that while he was driving, like I guess he had already dropped the load of the truck, whatever, and he was just up in his truck and he was driving, and for whatever reason he decided he couldn't drive anymore or whatever. He was sleepy. He was supposed to meet somebody too. They were supposed to come and meet him or something. So he was going to wait, and he decided he was just going to just have them come there. And while he's getting ready to go to sleep, he said it looked like a woman. She came out of the woods. And he was sitting in his truck. He had pulled over, and he had been talking to somebody on the radio or whatever to meet him. And he said they were about an hour and a half out. So he told them where he was at and that he was going to wait. And I guess they were going to bring him something. I don't remember. He didn't specify what that was. So he had to stay there for at least an hour and a half. So he figured, why not just wait there, take a nap, and it was kind of a desolate area. And this woman comes out of the woods. And he said that she walked right up to his truck, to the front of the truck, and she looked disheveled.
Mm-hmm.
And then as she got closer to the truck, he started to realize that it was more than just her being disheveled. He said the one thing that he noticed in particular was her left arm was like there was a bone sticking out of it. Like she had broken her arm.
Right.
And she was wearing a very tattered dress, and her face looked like it had holes in it. This is what he told me, or he wrote me, and he said that she looked very gaunt, and that when she walked up to the truck, she began to like walk up to the truck, to the front of the truck. And he said this was a big Peterbilt truck, and that she was bumping into it, like she was walking, just kept walking into it. And so he turned his lights on, and then she like went toward the light, like the headlight or whatever, and started like standing in front of it, looking at it, staring at it. And there again, he said that her eyes were almost an orangey color, like bloodshot, but they were glowing like almost orange.
Oh man!
Because he did say that it was bloodshot, almost orange looking. So I don't know what that means. I guess that's, you know. But here's the weird part. He decides that, you know, she's not a threat, you know. So he decides, you know, I'm just gonna ignore her. Maybe she'll go away. You know, he doesn't know what to make of her. He just thinks she looks like a person that might need help or
like
whatever.
A homeless person, maybe.
Yeah, like a homeless person. And he was like, you know, I saw this bone sticking out of her arm. He goes, and I thought maybe she was hurt or whatever. But he was too scared to get out and actually render assistance.
Right.
He's like, I didn't know what to make of it, so I just kind of sat there looking at her. So he calls the sheriff's department to deal with it, you know, and decides that he's just going to wait in his cab area.
Right.
So he goes into the cab area and closes the curtain and just lays there waiting for the sheriff's department to show up. Then he hears bang, 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 bang. And like he could hear somebody banging on the hood of his truck. So these trucks are pretty high up.
Yeah, they're pretty high.
So he opens the curtain and she's on the hood of the truck and she's slapping the glass with her hand. And at that point, he does notice that it is a bone. He's like, at that point, it was 100%. It was a bone sticking out of her arm. And one of her eyes was turned like sideways and it looked like a dead person. He said she literally looked like a dead person. Like if somebody had crawled out of their grave.
Oh, man.
And he said that there was even like a hole on the side of her cheek that you could see all the way through it. Like it was like, and he said it looked almost like a gunshot. Like somebody had shot somebody.
Wow.
It was just so, the story was just so bizarre. Like, I don't even know what to make of it, dude. It was just, you know, and so I messaged this guy back and forth and asked him a few more details. And I said, now the eyes, I was like, you said orangey, he said bloodshot. But in the light, they kind of reflected it almost orange, like it was yellow and red mixed.
Wow, that's really freaky.
Yeah, and the girl, he said that her hair was like it was like she had splotches of hair that were missing. And he said if you literally just took somebody that crawled out of their grave, and I asked him this, I said, why did you stay there when she was standing in front of the truck? He's like, well, I called the police. I figured it wasn't a big deal. She was a small female.
Tiny little thing, yeah.
And he goes, and I wasn't going to get out of the truck because I didn't, then what kind of drugs this person could be on, you know? And he goes, and I was exhausted. I was about to just fall out. My eyelids were closing. And he said that as soon as he sat in the back waiting for the sheriff's department, that's when she jumped up on the hood. He's like, I don't know how she, you know, he said he heard a bang, the initial bang, which he thinks was her jumping up onto the hood. And then her slapping the glass. He heard the pap, 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 you know? And so
that's weird.
Yeah. And that's a really crazy story. And he said that, you know, when he opened the curtain, she was just right there slapping at the glass, like, you know, and her mouth was open. You know, he said her mouth was open, like her jaw wasn't on correctly.
Right.
And that's pretty much all he said about that she was wearing a tattered dress.
You know, the first thing that comes to mind to me is Skinwalker, because, you know, the Navajo reservation is all around that area, the Four Corners area.
Well, it was a white girl, according to him.
Right.
He said she looked Caucasian.
Wow. So that's
I mean, what does that?
It sounds the description. You know, I'm thinking living dead, for lack of better words. But wow, that's freaky. It makes you wonder. He saw this up close. He saw the bone pop out.
Yeah, a bone
close.
sticking out of her arm with no blood, though.
Just.
Yeah, because I got a few details from the guy. We went back and forth, and he was just like, "Look, that's all I can tell you." Because I just kept asking questions because I just wanted to know, like,
finally, what he did.
And then he said that he just sat there, you know, and he got in his truck and was trying to start it, but she was on the hood, and he didn't want to, you know, whatever,
knock her off or something.
Yeah, and so he just like got back into the cab area or whatever, and the sheriff's department showed up like maybe a couple minutes, after he had gotten back into the cab, and he came out and was telling, she said she couldn't have gone far. Wasn't very long. Sheriff's department comes, she's gone. Wow. And all they found was like some smeared residue on the windshield.
That's weird, man.
Yeah, it's very weird. And the police were baffled. They couldn't tell him anything. Like what?
They never found any trace of this.
Said it happened really outside of Flagstaff. I don't know. That's what he told me.
Well, that's one of those. Flagstaff is in that interesting location because it's kind of high up in the mountains, northern Arizona, right? A lot of wooded area around there. A lot of people seem to think, like you said, it's flat. There's nothing, going on. But
no, it's mountainous terrain.
It's mountainous. It's got a lot of trees.
Close to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, and it's also not too far away from the mysterious mountains in Arizona. Oh, okay. The mysterious mountains. I mean, the local Arizonians.
So what do you think? You think she was a skinwalker?
I mean, that would probably be my first guess, but that just, with all the other details, though, that kind of throws it out of the window. I mean, because normally,
luckily she was out of the window.
That throws all that stuff out the window because
who knows if she would have gotten into the cab, what she might have tried to do.
Yeah, I mean that's true. But the thing that just throws that out the window is for skinwalkers. Like, okay, well, how many Caucasians do you know that would be skinwalkers?
Skinwalkers,
exactly.
Yeah, that's because I asked that question.
And so that throws it out.
What if it was an apparition that was manifesting itself? I don't know.
There's a lot of weird stuff, like I just mentioned, the mysterious mountains. There's a lot of just weird stuff that goes on out there. So much. There's so much paranormal, odd stuff associated with the mysterious mountains. So, gosh, it could be a number of things. A shapeshifter, maybe.
Well, here, I got another one for you. We'll get right into this next one. This is one that happened to a childhood friend of mine when we were kids, and he told me this. He reiterated it to me not too long ago because I reached out to him because he told me this when we were little, and it kind of freaked me out. So I just remembered the story. So what I did was I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, let me ask you a question." So anyway, he remembered it like it was yesterday. This happened when he was 8. And so I was a year younger than him. And he told me this story. Now, he works for a pretty big company. I don't want to say his name, but he told me this story. He says, dude, when he was little, he was playing in his room, and they lived way out in the country. They lived way outside of Rockdale.
Oh, wow.
And it's way out there.
Yeah, that's very rural.
There ain't nothing out there, nothing. And so he said that they lived like 5 or 6 miles out of town. Now, the town of Rockdale is very small anyway. So, yeah, it's not there's nothing there.
What is it, maybe 2,000 people, maybe?
Now, because the power plant closed down, it's about 4,000 probably. Oh, wow. Maybe. But he said that, he was there and they lived out in the country and he was playing and he heard something like movement outside of his window, like twigs snapping, whatever. And so he went to go look to see what it was. I mean, that's not normal because, there's nothing out there. He's just and he said it was in the summertime. And his parents were asleep, and I believe he just had a sister that was older. I think her sister might have been my sister's age, but anyway, he said he looked out the window and he sees this guy like with his back turned outside of the window, and he was looking, and he said that he kind of like bumped up against the glass, so this guy heard it,
right? And
the guy turns around, and he said when the guy turned around that the guy's face looked like the flesh was falling off of it. He said that you could see like the teeth, like part of the mouth was like the lips were gone.
Yeah.
So you could see his teeth. And he said that to this day, he can't watch like these zombie movies or anything like that because it freaks him out.
Because he saw that.
Yeah, he saw that. And he said that thing was just staring at him. He said, but it didn't have any eyes.
Sockets. Wow.
Yeah, just like eye sockets. And so he said, as it stared at him, and then it started walking toward his window, and he screamed and started freaking out. And then his dad came in and was like, "What's going on, boy?" Whatever. His dad was kind of a gruff dude, ex-Vietnam vet. And his dad started getting on to him, and he's like, "There's something out the window." And his dad looks out there, doesn't see anything, goes and grabs a gun, goes outside, walks around, doesn't see anything. Said he just saw it one time, never saw it again. Doesn't know what it was, and I didn't even speculate. And now he tells me this story when me and another friend were over there spending the night, and I'm thinking, okay, you're just trying to scare us,
Right.
And so that was weird. That was pretty,
That's that's really odd because you can't say Bigfoot, you can't say Dogman, aka werewolf. You can't say that, and the guy's giving you this description. He's obviously he
remembers it too, because when I brought it up to him a few months ago, he told me that same thing. He did not miss a beat. Yeah, he did say that house had some weird stuff that would happen in it.
Right.
Like when he was little, he told me this the other day, which I didn't know this, but he said that the microwave would go on and it would go ding in the middle of the night,
Oh, wow.
And there were some other weird things like lights would come on and off.
So it could be a haunting. It could be related to a haunting.
To a haunting, yeah. But he said that he heard that noise from this guy. And when the guy turned and was looking at him, it just started walking toward him, and he could see. It was like a full-bodied apparition, if it was.
Wow.
And that he could hear the footfall crunching.
Full 3D everything.
Mm-hmm, yeah, wow. Pretty crazy. Oh, so, anyways, that's all those stories. But here's what happened to me. Anthony, you want to get on the mic? Anthony was with us working out there in this place. And he can vouch for this. It was on East 2nd Street and there was a epidemic, I guess you want to call it at that time. You know a little bit more about this thing.
Yeah, it was this synthetic drug. They called it, I think it was called like K2 or something like that. But people refer to it as a zombie drug, or they just call it zombie. And it was real cheap, and it came like in this little square,
like a packet or something.
Foil packet, yeah. And you could just go down to the corner store and buy it. And that place that we were working at, East 2nd, it was an area where like a lot of homeless people were, and so a lot of them would just go into the corner store there, and they would buy that drug for real cheap. And it was marketed as "quote unquote" incense, but yeah. So it was like some kind of legal loophole, which is why they could sell it. But they would smoke that stuff, or however they would ingest it, and it would turn them into something that looked like it was like from a zombie movie.
Yeah, and I'm telling you right now, it was called Pow or Pow Wow or something like that.
There were different kinds. Different names or whatever, but it was all the same thing.
Really bad stuff. And I'll tell you what happened to me.
This is around the time the bath salts thing was going on in like Florida, or
was it the same time? I think it was after that.
Yeah, this was a little bit after that.
Because it kept changing incarnations.
Right, right.
And so what happened was we were in the middle of this area where these people were taking it, and we didn't know it until, my nephew, Zane, actually punched a guy that came up, and Zane's a pretty big kid. He's Diablo's son. And he was out there working, and I think he was the first one that had an encounter with one of these zombies. He said that this guy just came up, and he was like, "You can't be on this property." And the guy just stared at him, and he was like, "You can't be on this property." And the guy just rushed him. And it was on camera, it was on camera because he had to fight with this guy. So I had to go up there and look at the camera, and I saw the fight. And you could see him clearly telling this guy to get off the property. You can't be on this private property. And the guy just rushed him. And another thing would happen is if they were walking around on your property and you shine a flashlight at them, they would just come towards you.
Really?
Now, this is what happened to me. I had 2 different run-ins with these people. I was standing by my truck one night, and I was stretching, because you're sitting there for a while, you get stiff. So I'm out there stretching, whatever, kind of doing a little bit of calisthenics. I used to do a little working out. And this guy was walking across my property, and I shined a flashlight at him. It was real dark. One of the lights were out in that corner. And I'm like, "Sir, you can't be on this property." And he kind of grunts at me, and then he just starts wobbling toward me, and he just keeps coming. And I'm like, "Sir, you can't be on this property." He's not responding to anything I'm saying. He just keeps wobbling toward me. And then I turned the light off, and then he kind of stopped. Yeah, the light was making him come toward me. And so he just stops, and he stands there, and he stares at me with his mouth open. And I noticed, literally, he was drooling. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So I figured crack or something, but I think it was that drug. So I called the police because he just stood there. He didn't get aggressive or do anything else. He just stood there. And so I'm like, all right. So I called the cops, and then the cop showed up, and the cop was the one that dropped the dime on what was going on.
Really?
And yeah, and so he got out and he called for backup, and they grabbed the guy, before he even touched him, he had a backup come.
Mm-hmm.
Which I was like, why does he need a backup for this skinny dude, And I know that Zane had that little issue with that guy, so I thought maybe it was the same thing, but I wasn't for sure what was going on. Cop grabs him, and he says, you got to be careful, dude. These people are on zombie. And I'm like, what is that? Well, it's some drug that they're getting at these little convenience stores. It's legal right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's making them act, they call it zombie because they shuffle around. He's like, and you wouldn't believe some of the insane things that they do. Well, Anthony, you had a run-in with one too. I know that you had asked one to get off the property or something. He wouldn't go.
Yeah, it was weird. The way that this drug made them walk, it wasn't like a drunk person stagger. It was literally like a zombie walk.
Mm-hmm.
Off the movies?
Like yeah. I mean, if you didn't know any better, you would think they were like an extra for a zombie movie or something.
Wow.
Because that's how they walked, and that's how they grunted and moaned.
That's why they called it zombie.
Yeah, and like what was weird is that their it was like their pain tolerance would skyrocket, like they were on PCP or something.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So Anthony had to get one off his property. Police had to come, whatever. Well, here's what happened to me. Second time I had an encounter with one, it became violent. Mm-hmm. And I was going around a corner and I heard a grunting. And then he was like going, like talking to himself, And so I'm like, oh God. And so at that point I was not in the mood. I was kind of in a bad mood, which I get in these foul moods. Everybody knows I'm a loving teddy bear, but I got in a really bad mood. I was in a bad mood that night. And I just said, you need to get off my property. And I wasn't in the mood to confront the fight with this dude, And so I said, all right, so I'm gonna call the police. So I back up. There was a air conditioning unit, and they had built like a brick, what you would call it, like a trellis looking thing or something. Remember how it was, Anthony? And you had to be like, you had to really squeeze yourself in to try to get in there. There was just like a little, I don't even know how this guy got in there. And he wasn't really skinny, so I don't know how he did it. But then he squeezed his body back out of it. And I remember thinking, like, that guy must have really hurt himself getting in and out,
Yeah, he had to have like contorted himself or at least like forced his body in there in a way that would be really painful for the average person to do.
Yeah. And so I was on the phone with the police when he was coming out of it. And I said, okay, he's squeezing himself out of this brick, area. And the police were like, okay, well, we got units in the area. We'll send them. And so he gets on all fours and lunges at me while I'm on the phone with the police. And then I just hung up, and he grabbed a hold of my pant leg and was trying to bite me. And so I kicked him, and like, boom, kicked him, and he flew back and just kept coming toward me. And he was bleeding, like his arm was just real bloody. And he had a sweatshirt on. And there were bites, like you could see, like he had chewed,
biting on himself.
He had chewed it. Yeah, he had chewed his own arm, and he had chewed the sweatshirt and had bites on it, whatever.
Holy Jesus.
And so he lunged at me again, and so I popped him upside the head with the flashlight, and it didn't do anything to this guy. He just kept coming at me, but he was crawling on all fours, coming toward me.
Oh, man.
And so I just kept backing up, and I finally just kind of like got away from him, far enough away from him that he, and so he just kind of went off into the field and crawled toward a tree and was just laying there. And so the police came and they grabbed him and did what they had to tase him and get him under control.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty messed up, man. And then I had a female officer that was there, and a female came up to her and was like slamming her head onto her windshield. Not like, she didn't come up and was like bang, 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 but was like kind of bobbing her head on it. You know what I mean? So I had told her, I said, if something happens, just leave. So she left. And that happened to her right after the Zane thing. And we weren't sure what was going on yet at that point, But yeah, so it just kept happening, and different guards had incidents with these people. So here's what happened. I went to the convenience store to use the bathroom, and there was a really cool guy that worked in there, and I knew him from downtown. It was this Arab guy that used to run it. And he didn't own it, but he worked there. And he'd let me use the bathroom, and they're not supposed to let anybody use the bathroom. They had a no bathroom policy. So
no public bathroom.
But he knew me. And so he said, yeah, you can use it, but I have to be careful. These dang zombies, they come in here. But he used an expletive before that. He said, they come in here, these effing zombies, and they come in here and they do crazy thing, And so I asked him after I used the bathroom, I said, what is going on? Like, what kind of stuff are you seeing? Because I told him a little bit about what was going on with us over there at the account. And he says, this woman, she comes in, she goes and she grabs a jug of milk and pours it on her head, like pours it over her head and covering herself with it and then putting her head into the refrigeration area like she was hot.
Oh, wow.
And then when he tried to confront her, she started like lunging at him and knocked him over like a candy rack. Wow. And so then he ran and locked himself in the back, and she was beating on the door trying to get to him. The police come, they tase her, they grab her, whatever. And then he said another guy came in there and was trying, and he said that the little packets he showed me, they're like right there by the register. He goes, this stuff here, he goes, and the owner won't stop selling it, So he said that he started taking them and putting them behind the counter.
Oh, okay.
Because he said that one day he sold one and this guy took it, and an hour later he came in there and was freaking out and had a steak knife, like a steak knife, and was stabbing himself in the arm with it. Wow. That is that. And then I think eventually they stopped selling it
altogether.
And so, but that was a pretty interesting little period there. And you'd be sitting in your vehicle and you could see them in the distance, like staggering around, and you're just going like, I hope they don't come on my freaking property.
Dadgum.
So yeah, it was pretty messed up, dude. You sit there and you talked, and one day I was like, standing out of my truck, and there was a guy that just staggered down the street, was staggering down the street, and I thought he was going to turn onto my property, and I'm just going like, please don't come onto my property. And he didn't, and I was like, but I kicked like a rock or something, like he heard my foot, and he turned and kind of looked over at me with that, that dazed look, and then kind of went toward me, and then turned and veered off, and I'm going like, oh, thank goodness, it's so...
I mean,
it's crazy.
The drug, and unfortunately in this situation, like you said, is drugs. But, and that segues us back, like I said, originally at the beginning of how the origins of zombies came about. It was like a soul capture by a Bokor, a.k.a. a witch doctor, right? And then, when it met pop culture here is in the last 10 to 15 years or better, it experienced this resurgence. But this is strange. And of course, now, you're talking about those people down there smoking that synthetic whatever it was and ingesting it or however they were doing it. It's scary, man. I'm just like, to me, I'd be like, no thanks. You can keep that. See you later, guy. But I really find it fascinating that you said you turn a light on them and they start coming toward the light. And then when you turned it off, they just kind of just sat there. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
And if they hear noises, they come toward it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It makes you wonder. Like I had a friend of mine, and her husband actually thinks that there could be a zombie apocalypse. Like he doesn't believe in all this other paranormal poo-poos it.
Right.
But he really believes that there's going to be a zombie apocalypse. And I'm thinking, I used to think, what an idiot. Now I'm thinking, I don't agree with his stance on the paranormal because he doesn't believe in it. But
right.
I do believe that if it's something that simple and a little foil envelope can make you that crazy, messed up, what could they do on a mass scale?
Yeah, yeah.
Think about that, folks.
Crop dusting an area.
They could literally drop that stuff over us, and an entire city could become The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Or 28 days
28
later,
days later, or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a scary thought.
It is.
Because when we were working out there, I told everybody, I was like, dude, we're dealing with what could be a precursor to something, I mean, I don't want to sound like some apocalyptic lunatic or whatever, but I've dealt with those people, and you're going like, and I've seen people on PCP and on some serious crank.
Yeah.
But they had a little bit of faculty about them. These people were literally like mind gone. They were running on base.
Just droning, huh?
Yeah, just running on the back of the brain.
That base was instincts. Yep. That's crazy, man. Whew.
So thank you, Anthony, for your
the story,
contribution to that.
Man. Oh man,
he was like, we really need to talk about this. I was like, yeah, that's.
I mean, and I'm not laughing at those people. I'm not laughing at anybody's misery that they're caught up in drug addiction. I feel bad for them, but that's just, I think that'd be freaky to actually see in person. I've never seen that. I've seen some weird stuff.
Well, think about this. If you're a person that believes in demon possession,
Mm-hmm.
taking something like that where your brain just goes away, that would be the easiest way for a demonic entity to take you.
Oh yeah, because your faculties are gone.
Mm-hmm. And there's some of them that didn't lose. They wouldn't lose all of their faculties, because we had a situation where my guard had to go to the restroom.
Yes.
And he was not even gone that long, but there was no bathroom there, so he had to leave to go down the street. And in the time that he was gone, when he came back, the trash can had been incinerated, like the rubber trash can was melted.
Oh, man.
So they had thrown something fire related in there, and then they go on camera and they see that it was like one of these goobers that had a newspaper that was on fire, and he was like shaking it. Acting like he was, I don't know, on another planet or whatever. Yeah. And then throws it in the trash. And then it was just crazy what was going on at that place. And, I'm just glad that it's not going on anymore. But
yeah,
I just think of like what could happen if it was on a massive scale.
Oh, man. I don't even want to imagine in accordance with what we know about zombies today through pop culture. That's how we all know zombies, the resurgence. A drug, a chemical or something like that
Affects your brain,
a virus, whatever. I mean, that is a reality, and that could potentially happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people live their life day to day thinking that everything's fine, and then they wake up and they're on fire. I'm just kidding. No, seriously, I mean, like, you think your life is just one way, that everything is that's just the way it is, the day-to-day mundane of going to work, coming home, you eat dinner, whatever. Not even thinking that you walk out that door and encounter something really messed up.
Yeah, that this world, this society, this world we live in is an anomaly, actually, because anything could break down real quick.
Yeah, you stop at a rest stop and some crazy thing jumps on your truck.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I tell a lot of people, I said, hey, if something like that happened, the proverbial zombie apocalypse scenario, martial law would be in place, cities would be locked down, and people in those cities, man, you're going to be in trouble. Mm-hmm. Because you're in a city and you're in a highly populated area, and go from there. People, hey, call me crazy, but that's just, to me, that seems very logical. Like, it's what could happen to people living in highly populated areas.
Well, in the stories that we were telling earlier too, that I was relaying to you, people see weird people wandering around the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
What was that? Was this one of those zombies that just wandered off too far?
Could be, but think about it. It was only one.
Thank goodness. It wasn't a herd.
Yeah, it wasn't a gang of them.
That's all the time we have for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, daswolfman88@gmail.com and Wolf and Sal @gmail.com.
Comment, like, and subscribe.
Please subscribe. We need subscribers, man. Y'all are not subscribing fast enough. Don't make me unleash the zombie apocalypse. I need to make you subscribe. All right?
Oh, man.
Anyways, we had a good time.
Thank you so much. We'll see y'all next time.
See ya.